The
Well, anything else would be false advertising.
It's true. Well, it's true.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the downward spiral where it's never ogre. I had to say that because Drew usually says that, and he's not here. This is what I would like to call a special episode. My good friend Chump is here. Chumpchangedraws on DA.
Yes.
I will put up various links to wherever he tells me to later in post. But
thank you.
No problem.
Yeah.
And he does one of the ways I found out about him specifically was he does a very good Goku X Khalifa manga comic, and I was really pleased with it. And I was like, you know what? If only I could meet an artist that's local and summon a bitch, he's local. So I thought I'd have him on the show, talk about some Dragon Ball, talk about some Dragon Ball games, because we got Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, which I still wish was just Budokai Tenkaichi 4.
It is in spirit.
It is in spirit. But I thought it would be very interesting to kind of look at the retrospective of the Budokai / Budokai Tenkaichi series as a whole, throw in some, might be popular, might be unpopular opinions about Dragon Ball along the way.
Right on.
And, just kind of go from there. Or we could just fuck around for 2 hours. I don't really know anymore. Yeah. This is slowly turning into a show where we just mad lib.
Well, thank you very much for the introduction. First of all, I just want to introduce a little bit of myself here. As you said, I am Chumpchange. I do draw comics. About 3 years ago was when I started my my Dragon Ball fan manga. And while it is a Goku and cauliflower shipping manga, but that's
at least what drew me.
But I like to think that it's expanded since then. I like to think that that's not all it is anymore.
Well, the way I would categorize it is alternative universe,
right?
Because it's just it really. Sure that romance is a part of it,
right.
But it's also just an expanding. It's like a fan mythology of how you carry on the show from a certain perspective, and you're just hey, I introduced this villain, I introduced this. It's not just oh, we're holding hands and shit. It's no, there is Dragon Ball Z villains, there is Dragon Ball Z stuff going on. It's and for the most part, you, from what I remember, are a big Akira Toriyama. Fan, and you remain very, very loyal to his adaptations of the characters.
I do, but the beautiful part about adapting his characters was that he was not nearly as strict about them as some of the fan base may let on.
Some of the fan base may need to rethink.
and that's fine. Canon is canon. At the end of the day, you cannot argue with what is official.
No matter how many people want to try.
How bad I want to try.
No matter how many people want to justify, we just had a mock conversation about Trunks and Cell of the Future.
We did.
It's a mess, but it's just what it is. It just happens.
So if you guys want to go ahead and check that out, but you're maybe not so crazy about the ship, just bear in mind that's not all it is. I do try very hard to keep in with the spirit of Toriyama's vision for Dragon Ball. The partner that I collaborated with, a very talented writer by the name of Devlin Dracul, he wrote the original story that I based my manga off of, and I have deviated from the source material since then, but he and I had a shared vision to where we wanted to create a what-if scenario that we imagined could actually have been written into canon. We didn't want to treat the material too fanficky.
Yeah, because the sense I get from it is often a what-if saga.
Yeah.
But it's not as crazy as the what-if sagas where they get kind of goofy.
Yeah.
It's more or less just because this isn't really spoilers or anything, but there's a few training montages between you split them up via certain characters where it's Vegeta takes Kaba under his wing, for example, and I just think of that where it's master and student training, and I think of that with it's kind of like the Cell Saga when Goku took Gohan
right.
and trained with him and all this other stuff, and it's yeah, it's a completely plausible scenario. Like Vegeta would probably want to be like, hey, let's help this new generation of Saiyans because I am the prince, and I am,
I'm the last bastion of my entire culture, and I have an opportunity to reach out to an entire other population.
Newly discovered race of Saiyans, to me, or to Vegeta at least, and so yeah, it really is just kind of like an expansion, and
it's my interpretation of those events, because a lot of similar ideas get covered in other fan mangas, but I like to think that what makes us unique is that we stay very true to the goofiness of Dragon Ball. A lot of Dragon Ball fan mangas you read, they get really serious, or they're like really metal, or like the blood and guts and the violence and the action, which is all great.
They crank it up to the nines, which is good for a specific audience.
Yeah, well, it's great. I enjoy Dragon Ball Kakame as much as the next guy. But there is something inherently just Dragon Ball and Toriyama about just adding a fart joke every now and then.
Yeah. It was funny too because I'd seen snippets of Dragon Ball for so long, I want to say it was maybe last year that I finally just sat down and watched the majority of the series. I didn't get through the final World Tournament arc, but when I got to that point, it just kind of became cut and dry for me, where I was like, okay, I get it. But watching that and then kind of reading through your comic was enough for me to be like, okay, I think this guy really has a vision for not only what he likes in Dragon Ball, because obviously what you kind of like more is throwing in that humor, throwing in that it's not all the seriousness that people make it out to be, or it's not all the intense glares and everything. It's no, there's also just an adventure to it. It's about the adventure, and that's what I like about it, where it's always I don't know where I'm going on the adventure, but I know I'm going on an adventure.
Yeah.
It's that kind of thing where that keeps me interested, where it's okay, here are characters I like that, granted, I haven't even touched watching Super, but I haven't.
I always forget about that.
But you've already made me like the characters, because I was just because I've been kind of nonchalant about the characters, all right, they're good designs, they're good, they seem like good characters, I've kind of read up on them a little bit, but then when I when I read through your fan manga, I was you know what, I think I would probably love these characters if they're portrayed the way that you're portraying them, and
well, I appreciate that,
because it's I think we both have a Chi-Chi problem.
I mean,
I more so, but
okay, I want to go on the record before we even get into this.
Yeah.
Okay. And for all of the viewers out there, for anybody,
all three of you,
well, okay. So a common criticism that I have gotten over the years was okay. So I personally dislike characters. I personally dislike Chi-Chi as a character, and I'm very sorry, guys, Dragon Ball fans out there. Not everybody likes everybody, and she as a character serves a function, and she as a character has her bit, and I don't very much enjoy the humor of her bit, no. But that does not mean that I inherently believe that she is just an awful person who doesn't deserve to be on the show, who doesn't deserve any sort of praise or love or affection whatsoever.
It's just a character that you're not fond of.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So yes, I did make a fan manga where she and Goku break up amicably, and he finds romance elsewhere. But that doesn't by any means think that I think that the relationship is broken, and anyone who likes it is just buying into the canon because it's canon. No, you can
you're not making a statement to the industry saying hire fans, we can do it better. It's no, this is just a fan project. This is your interpretation. This is how you play your hand, and it's fine. My own problem with Gigi is just too dull.
Right.
If she did a little bit more, it'd be like maybe something. But like, Bulma finds a way to help out.
Right.
Like, come on, you got to do something.
I always point to the very last arc of the original Dragon Ball. It was a filler arc, but it did involve Goku and Chi-Chi going on an adventure, just the two of them, to retrieve the wedding dress, and they meet up with Anin, who was like a guardian of like one of the portals to the afterlife, and Grandpa Gohan is there, and those 4 or 5 episodes, whatever it may have been, had Chi-Chi gone that direction, I never would have complained.
Yeah.
I would have absolutely been like, no, she's perfect. She's, but that didn't happen, but just because that did not happen doesn't mean that I choose to dismiss the character and their fans altogether. It's just a silly what if.
It would have definitely been much more interesting, if, at least in my mind, if she were kind of like an avid supporter of Goku's training, but also like concerned in a way. Yeah. Like instead of just the complete opposite, where she's just like, I like do not train our son, like something like that.
Yeah.
Because I could see that. I could see like, oh, the motherly concern and stuff, but going on is just semantics. That's a whole Chi-Chi thing. We're here to talk about Vigi games.
We are, aren't we?
We are. And
forgot about that.
We've already, you know what? Again, it wouldn't be, as Drew says, it's like 10 minutes of nothing followed by the rest of everything.
Okay.
So.
Oh, fair enough. And full disclosure, I did have notes that I did write down for the purposes of this podcast.
He had his notes. He had everything he needed.
They're not here.
Yeah.
So we're gonna go off the top, just like Toriyama would.
Yes. We're doing this in true Toriyama fashion.
People really don't realize how much Dragon Ball was improvised. Like,
which is funny.
He made up the majority of that series on the day.
Which is impressive that it became such a beloved.
Let's just go to show how talented he was as a storyteller.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So Dragon Ball Z Budokai was released November 29, 2002.
It sure was.
The PS2 really is just the gold mine for Dragon Ball Z games.
Okay, so I'm pretty confident that aside from the Wii, I think the PlayStation 2 probably has like the most expansive library of any video game console. I don't know which has more at this point.
The PS2 had 4,000 titles.
Oh, wow.
If not 4,000, then very close, because I remember looking them up, and I was just like, because, I remember the PS2 going on for so long, and I was like...
well into the PlayStation 3's life cycle.
And it's like, I was just like, when did it end? And it's just like, there were just so many, like, despite, like, 4,000 games, obviously not all of them are quality, but, like, there was a lot more quality than you think there would have been.
Yeah. Plenty hidden gems.
Yeah, and, so, in 2002, we got the release of Dragon Ball Budokai, developed by DIMS, published by Bandai in Japan and Atari in the US. Platforms were PS2, GameCube, and they later were moved to PS3 via collection of the first and third game, not the second.
But I thought those were just the Budokai games, not the Budokai Tenkaichi games. Which one are we talking about right now?
The Budokai.
Oh, I'm sorry.
About Budokai.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Yeah. You're fine. But yeah, they got later ported to the first one got later ported to PS3 and Xbox 360. The reviews were mixed upon average. The total roster was 23 characters.
Yeah.
How far we've come.
No kidding.
It sold 3.5 million copies on its initial release. We don't have much numbers past that. I'm going to go into some of my thoughts on this game, which
Please. Did you play it when you were younger?
No.
Okay.
I saw people play it, but I've only experienced it very briefly, and then I played it recently, and finally I was able to make my own opinions, and it's like, I do not like the models. They are not.
no.
There's no cell shading to the models, and it's really
very plastic looking.
Yeah, it's like toy looking almost.
Yes.
There's decent enough animation for the time. Overlapping voice lines, I noticed.
Yeah.
That being said, it's the first DBZ 3D fighting game. Yeah. I can't hate it too much.
And it does have a solid skeleton of a fighting system. Say what you will about the game itself, but like the controls are tight where they need to be, and they're loose where they need to be. So that's pretty cool.
It was a hard system for me to understand the whole capsule system at first, but I eventually got used to it.
Yeah, and I at full disclosure for like the rest of these Dragon Ball Z games, like any single one we're talking about, I personally could care less about like any of the RPG elements to any of them.
Yeah.
I always thought that it made the games really imbalanced, but I guess we can get into that when we get into.
We'll eventually get there. Yeah. The European version of the game did not get dubbed. It was exclusively Japanese subtitles.
Interesting.
Yes, skills via capsules wasn't a very interesting concept for me.
No.
They had an extra mode called The Legend of Hercule, which you have to basically... It's Hercule's recap of the Cell games where he beats everyone.
Yes.
Now, I find that extremely funny. I do not want to play as Hercule for all those battles.
I never played that as a kid because I did play Budokai.
Got through any of it.
I played Budokai for a little while. I had it on the GameCube, but other Dragon Ball games came and subsequently replaced it.
Well, it was like a yearly release.
Yeah, I never learned about the Hercule mode until I was well into adulthood. It was one of those things where like, oh man, I probably would have enjoyed that for shits and giggles as a kid had I known.
It's definitely an interesting concept. I might have eaten that shit up when I was a kid, but
yes.
Not much longer. I would have definitely been like, why Hercule? Like,
yeah, the joke would have gotten old for sure, but I would have, at least an afternoon, I would have gotten something out of it.
Weird, funny costumes. They certainly added a lot more enjoyable elements to it. Enjoy punching Cell in the dick at Gohan's height as you beat the game on a grand whimper, desiring more, because that game only went up to the Cell Saga. It's the end of the Cell Saga.
Yeah, it did.
Which is really weird, but it's also because they did it. However, given that this game basically covers all that the Toonami version of Dragon Ball Z had shown up until that point, I find it forgivable.
Yeah.
Not much else to really say on that. A great start.
Yes.
If you really want to go into 3D game fighting perspective for Dragon Ball Z, it's like, you know what? This is definitely a Dragon Ball Z 3D fighting game.
Absolutely.
We're on our way, boys.
Yes.
How can we go from here? Dragon Ball Z Budokai 2, also again developed by DIMS, published Bandai in Japan, Atari in the West, or in the East. Yeah, no, West. Sorry, fuck it. There's a slew of release dates, but it's generally in November. We got it in December 4th. And Japan got it in February 5th of 2004.
Okay.
We got it sooner. That's just weird, but
I think around this point, because I did not grow up with Budokai 2. I know I played 1. I know I played 3, but 2 I completely skipped. I think I was preoccupied with other games around.
2 was one that I don't hear people talk about, and I learned why.
It's the black sheep, and
it's such a black sheep.
Okay.
Well, it's not even just a black sheep. It's a forgotten. It's like a forgotten sheep, and for good reason. We'll get into it, but it's like reviews were just above average. 31 characters, a few more characters.
Yeah. Sold
2 million copies. Intro animation. I think this is one of my favorite intro animations. It's the one with Majin or Kid Buu fighting Gotenks and Cell and Metacooler and all them going at it. Or no, wait. That might be a different one, but Goku cuts the fucking moon in half in the intro animation for this one. That's this one.
Okay.
But yes,
That's pretty solid.
The cell shading makes all the difference in the gameplay. It looks significantly better. I would definitely prefer this one's gameplay over the first one. However, Dragon World board game.
Yeah.
I was not exactly expecting that when I booted up the story mode.
Board game.
It's like a weird. I've never played any game like that, but I know that there are games like that out there where it's like a turf war style thing, where it's like a map, and you have like specific icons that like characters will go to, and you're like, okay, well, you approach them to fight them, but like when you fight them, you don't just beat them. They have like a health bar, and they like you beat them, and they get dizzy and they go to a different place. Then you have to fight them again and again until they're gone.
Oh, weird.
And it's like, you just get sick of it. You're like, okay, well, I already beat them.
Yeah.
Like, why am I fighting them 3 times? It's
that was definitely like an old school way of making those like branching path fighting games, because there was, and I may be dating myself a little here, but I did not actually go up with the NES. There's a Godzilla game for the NES that has that exact same formula. Like, you have to defeat the same exact enemies, like, and you essentially, like, you're a monster, but you operate like a piece on a game board, and all the other
weird.
Yeah. So I'm not exactly sure like when that style of like.
I mean, clearly it was relevant to them in 2000, the end of 2003, beginning of 2004, but I haven't
seen any game like that since.
Yeah, I
didn't grow up with Budokai 2, so
I wrote, I hate it, please no more.
Okay. Alright, we can move on then.
Well, no, that's what I wrote for the story mode. However, this was the game that had a lot of new fusions and Majin Buu absorption.
Sure.
This one had, I think it was the Krillin and Hercule fusion or whatever it was.
Yeah.
But like a lot of silly stuff like that I can appreciate, but I would have maybe saw as like a novel concept. Improved graphics, not much else. Budokai 3.
Right.
Again, developed and published by the same people. Platform. It was really only PlayStation 2 that this was on.
Yeah.
We got it November 16th. A lot of November releases. And it's just so weird that, like, yearly releases, like, I think if they would have just saved up some money and just waited a year, they would have got some good stuff. But, like,
maybe.
The reviews for this one were generally good.
I remember enjoying it.
41 characters and sold 2.7 million copies.
Yes. I remember when Budokai 3 came out. I thought that it was a substantial improvement over the first game at the time. For the purposes of this podcast, I did not revisit it at all. But I tried. I tried my absolute hardest. Every time that I would go to find the ROM, it would always end up in my downloads as BT3, never be like just Budokai 3.
The ROM, don't you mean the disc from your local?
That's what I mean. What's
a ROM?
I have the disc. I have the disc, and then I put it in the computer, and then I got the disc image from there, and that's how I got that. That's how that happened.
It's good to know you're doing things the right way. So
yeah, of course. But it's just so weird how when I put this Budokai Tenkaichi Budokai 3 disc, it kept coming up as a Budokai Tenkaichi 3's disc. That's just the weirdest thing. I don't know. Yeah.
Oh gosh.
No.
Oh, this one had my favorite animated opening. It's the one with Gogeta and Broly and everything.
Right.
And it was actually all 2D and everything. This was before, because the Budokai Tenkaichi games are all 3D animated. Yeah. Budokai is all 2D animation.
Yes.
Except for, I think, the first one.
The first one had that amazing
intro. The first one had the if any of you have never seen it, please do yourselves a favor and look up the first Budokai intro.
It's pretty spectacular.
And it like goes on for so long.
It's a shot-for-shot remake of the intro.
You'll never notice a difference.
Exactly.
It's exactly the same.
Seamless, honestly.
Oh, it killed me.
But you know what, bro? For the time.
Yeah, for the time, I'm sure a lot of kids found it like, oh my gosh, I'm playing Dragon Ball, and now I'm just like, oh, how fun! Like I was showing, Chump the opening to Dragon Ball Kakarot, and we were just like, oh yeah, this is pretty decent.
That's nice.
And I just like to imagine some kid just watching side by side of like,
oh boy, that's the whole thing though. Like, okay, you put that side by side to Dragon Ball Kakarot, of course, but if you put it side by side to something like on the Nintendo 64, you know, then like absolutely, like holy shit, this
People be like, well, Mario runs and jumps, but like, look at this. Like, we are like, this is Dragon Ball.
This is next gen for real, yeah.
There
was no Dragon Ball Z game for like for Saturn or 64.
Oh no,
nothing like that. They had a bunch for the Amiga. They had a bunch for the Wonder Swan.
They
had a bunch
about that.
Yeah. They even had some the Super Butoden games for the Super Famicom.
Huh.
Yeah. Oh, those are very fun. Very fun.
I'll look into them one day.
Yeah.
The open world for Budokai 3, and this would begin a trend of them actually using Toriyama's canonical maps that he made for the both the Earth and Namek. The story is mostly told through speech bubbles, like kind of like the character
RPG
plastered.
style.
The character kind of just plastered there and just whatever. New characters, new stages, transformations, and ultimate attacks. This was the first introduction of ultimate attacks, and I don't think we ever really looked back since then.
No, you could definitely tell with the first two games that they were trying to... They were at least making the attempt for a balanced experience. But when you add the super moves and the ability to spam those, all that goes out the window.
Exactly. You're firing Kamehamehas all the time.
All day, all night, baby.
This game was the start of the beam struggles.
Yes.
Which probably ruined many of people's controllers.
Oh, for sure.
Dragon Universe mode had 12 playable characters, each with their own story. Flying around, picking fights, and getting capsules. So, I would say that if I did have this game as a kid, I would have probably really enjoyed it. It sounds like it has enough to keep me entertained.
Absolutely.
And especially because it does have the Majin Buu characters that I kind of grew up watching, because I was kind of late to that whole brigade. But the first one, I think this was actually the first Dragon Ball Z game I played.
Okay.
Infinite World.
Infinite World.
Which is like Budokai 3, but next level.
Okay.
Where you're like, okay.
Yeah, I played a little bit of it. I felt that it was very, very, very similar.
Now, this is kind of jumping ahead a bit because...
Okay.
This is 2008.
Right.
Before, we were at 2004.
Yes.
And it's such a weird... Because... I guess this is because this is mostly just Dimps doing the Budokai style,
right.
And they had Spike develop Budokai Tenkaichi. But for Dimps, I've never really been into the whole 2D. Granted, it is 2D, 3D style,
right?
But
3D characters on a 2D plane.
Yeah, 3D characters. Well, not even 2D plane. It was like a 3D you could go in
right, Infinite
clockwise.
World, sorry. Yeah, right. Like Tekken.
Yes. Yeah. 42 characters. The reviews were good. Came out November 4th, 2008 for us in the West. Sold from what I could tell, only 280,000 copies.
Oh, ouch.
I think it was kind of firm that people wanted more Budokai Tenkaichi, not Budokai.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, so it was, and I mean, I remember playing this one growing up, and I definitely had a lot of my favorite stuff happen here, the world map. I didn't love it, but it was there. I have a lot of nostalgia for it, but I cannot call it a good game or a game that I would really go back to and complete.
Yeah.
Lots of mini games too, weirdly, such as the Frieza shooting Piccolo with his beams mini game.
Yeah.
A game where you literally run around a field collecting what are those circular spinning things looking for rabbits?
Just orbs?
No, not even orbs. They're just they're gates almost, like circular gates that you have to walk through, like a racing game kind of thing.
Okay.
So it's like that, and it's just I don't think of this when I think of Dragon Ball.
No.
And I'm
that's a shame.
It was such a weird... I was into it at the time as a kid, but it's I just going back to it is one of the hardest things.
Again, for the purposes of this podcast, I did attempt to play the game, and I gotta admit, I was not very much impressed by it. It didn't really do anything that I didn't get out of Budokai 3. And I think it just goes to the point, you were right. People wanted more BT content. It's just anything that's considered a downgrade shouldn't even be
Yeah, it's why wouldn't you try to make a sequel better in every way?
Exactly. And why wouldn't you at least try to top what what the competition is doing?
And it bothers me too, because it's I know that I think Spike was working through Dimps to make the Budokai Tenkaichi series, but like Dimps hadn't made a Dragon Ball Z game for a better part of 4 years, and then that's what they come out with. It's like, why does this feel like it's not like the worst? It has some additional features, but it's like
a half measure.
Yeah, it's like a half measure. It's like, well, this feels like Budokai 3.5. Yeah. Like, why are we even fucking with this? Like,
well, a lot of people did. Apparently.
280,000 did apparently.
I mean, in the grand scheme of Dragon Ball. Anyway.
Oh, we're here now.
Okay.
Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi.
The meat
/ Sparking.
Yes, the meat of the situation at hand here.
Developed by Spike, published Bandai Namco. Yep. Of course, for us it was Atari, PlayStation 2, Nintendo Wii, and the PlayStation Portable.
Yeah.
Technically, the first release was October 25th, 2005. That was the only one I can really find. 56 playable characters.
Wonderful.
That is already more than we have been dealt with before.
Oh, yeah.
With a total of 90 playable forms and variants.
Right.
And it sold 1.2 million.
And deservedly so. Up until that point, Dragon Ball Z games were about capturing the essence of the action. About, like, how do you recreate these high octane like super moves in the air, and how does that work with split screen and everything? But
I'm trying to even think if there was even sorry to cut you off, but it's like I'm trying to think if there was even like a game where you had a third person over the shoulder view while you're fighting. I'm trying to think of
kind of like Power Stone, maybe.
Power Stone, yeah. Like I'm trying to think of another like mainstream example.
Smash.
Oh, Smash is.
Yeah, you're right.
2D, and but no, it was just like being such a, and this is actually, I believe, so technically, Budokai 3 sold more than this game, because I think people were kind of like warming up to the whole idea of it. Nice 3D opening cinematic, but why are they all covered in Vaseline? Can we get that great Goku and Vegeta head bopping?
Yes. The scene that launched 1,000 gifts.
I can't look at it anymore.
I lose those gifts for everything, man.
It's so perfect.
It really is. It really is. They're just like Mordecai and Rig being out like.
Yes, they are. Oh gosh, that'd be perfect. I gotta make that video.
Please do.
Oh my gosh.
Please do. Please do.
I'd probably be super easy to make. Z Battlegate is the new story mode.
Loved it.
It's not bad. I
loved it. As a kid, oh man, that was everything I needed it to be.
The story mode does every single recorded battle.
Yes. Yes.
Which I would have eaten that shit up as a kid.
I did.
Now I'm like, this is way too much.
Yeah.
But I'm like, but back then I know for a fact I would have played through all of it. And I think I think I did have this game for a brief time as a kid. And I played through quite a bit of it. But yeah, like they have Goku and Vegeta fighting 3 different times.
Yeah.
And then Great Ape Gohan fighting Great Ape Vegeta and stuff.
For sure,
and it's like, like you got all you need. You got so many things, and
not only that, but like they covered plenty of Dragon Ball, they covered plenty of GT, they covered plenty of the movies. Yep. I don't know if the very first game covered all of it, but I'm pretty sure it did.
What, Budokai Tenkaichi?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they covered it all. The only one that they didn't do, I think, was Omega Shinron and Sin Shinron.
Okay.
That was the only one, like the Dragon arcs. I think they only went up to Super 17.
Right.
I think he was in the game. I can't remember.
If I recall correctly.
Yeah. The Evolution Z stuff is really pushed for fusing characters, and I know you have told me you were not a super big fan of that.
No. Like as a kid, those are elements of the games that I completely ignored. Because typically, when you're playing the single player mode, you want the upgrades because you don't want to be, a weak little string bean boy. You want to be able to fight anybody and win them with a few hits. But in competitive scenarios, like we always had my cousins, my brother around, and the only way to make the game actually fair was to play with the normal settings. the unaltered characters. So to me, I was like, well, what more?
Simple 3 health bars and just
Right.
because anything else, you're just like feels like you're cheating almost.
A little bit, yeah, a little bit, especially against like my younger cousins.
Yeah,
it was not
like
cool.
they don't have a chance.
Right. So because we never really utilized any of that system in the multiplayer, I never typically bothered with it in the single player. That's probably why I didn't finish it. But I got really close.
So I don't know if this game is as beloved as people love it online for kind of being the first, but it takes forever, and the punches and kicks to me, when I was playing it recently, are very pointless. It's like,
oh yeah,
you just use key blasts to do everything because it's like otherwise the battles will go at a snail's pace.
And that is unfortunately going to be like a big point of contention for the rest of the series afterwards. That's not really something that they address in later games, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, I think this one's worse though, because I was, at least in some games, when you fire off a combo, you see that health bar go down a little bit.
For sure.
This one, it was like just a tick.
Notches.
Like even with a combo, you're like getting a tick done, and it's like it is just so much better to just back up, charge, Kamehameha, repeat. And it's
by the time BT3 comes around, like you can't even like visibly like damage your enemies who are like way stronger than you. Like they don't even have like
the giants won't even budge for it.
Yeah, exactly. They won't even budge.
And it's like
getting a little ahead of ourselves, but
no, it's a good point. It's I think that's more in just like they're trying to make it like a more realistic experience for like the Dragon Ball Z fans, but like the cost of that is it's not exactly going to be fair.
No,
like
absolutely.
I remember we were playing BT3 recently, and I was Harudagarn.
You were.
And you were just like, you kept throwing punches and everything, and I was just like, I'm just gonna beam fire. And you were just like, I guess I'll die then.
Yep. And I did. And I did.
And it's like, I felt kind of like, oh, well,
but
that wasn't fun.
That's the nature of that game, though.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but we were also doing the 5-on-5, so it's like, you got me later. But, yeah, the health bars, they went down at a snail's pace, but it's not unplayable, but it was certainly a bit of a hassle. Special requirements during submissions were kind of weird to me, because it's like, you could beat them, but if you beat them, you don't accomplish the thing. It's like, one is literally just like, run away.
Yeah.
It's like, so I'm waiting all this time to run away.
Yeah, and
like,
you have to
loading,
wait. You have to wait for the prompt to activate it. So like, you better not die before then.
Yeah, and it's so weird. This game did have 2-player split screen, which was very good.
Which was the entire reason why I had it.
This was, I would say, the first game that, because it was 3D, they could really take advantage of the whole mechanics of Dragon Ball Z, which is like characters with scouters can lock onto opponents from anywhere.
Yeah.
Androids don't show up on your radar.
Right.
Majin Buu slowly recovers health over time naturally, which is kind of fucking cheating.
Absolutely.
Larger characters don't flinch from smaller attacks. And my favorite, nobody flinches from Hercule's attacks whatsoever.
Not a single one. Why would they?
Yeah. We also got Z Fusion for items and characters, and then World Tournament and Ultimate Battle. I think from there we can pretty much say like that's a good setup. Just needs a few tweaks. Yeah. And with those tweaks, we come into Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 2, Sparking Neo. It's a challenge, Kakarot, was the one I often got.
Nice.
Again, developed by Spike. And platforms were mostly just the Wii and PS2.
Yep. I had it for the PS2.
Same. For us in the US of A, it was November 7th, 2006.
Sounds right.
And for the Wii, in the US, it was November 19th. I did not pick this game up when it came out because I was probably too young, but significantly increased, 129 playable characters.
Yes, that is more than double. More than double, you guys.
It's just, and it sold 1.65 million. And I think this is kind of when people were starting to be like, all right, we're liking Because I think the Budokai certainly had its fighting game crowd, but this kind of had a more of its story crowd, like when people just love enjoying Dragon Ball Z.
And that is because of the improved story mode.
Yes.
When they were making Budokai Tenkaichi 2, they took special lengths to recreate certain scenes from the anime that like desperately needed to be animated. As a matter of fact, you and I were playing Dragon Ball Kakarot not even an hour prior to the recording of this podcast. And you and I were both pretty remorse that like when Vegeta destroys Android 19, it does not have the bit where his head falls off and it rolls on the ground and, dramatically, it completely skipped over that.
Yep.
And that is actually something that Budokai Tenkaichi 2 does not do. That's just one example of the scene that I'm talking about, but Budokai Tenkaichi 2 really tried its hardest to recreate the anime moments to the best of their ability.
Not only that, but they added a lot more maps. They added a lot more just settings, and one of my favorites, just from a design aspect, is the stage I'm thinking of is it was when the androids are fighting Vegeta on the side
highway?
of the road,
Yeah.
When it's just that truck and everything there, and I was just like, I always found that one really pretty for some reason.
That's a badass, it's a badass stage for sure.
This one added the addition that you can transform and fuse during the fights now.
Sure can.
Tag teams, definitely loving it.
Love it.
Dragon Adventure, world map, landing in empty cities. I liked it.
Yeah, that
Selfishly, I liked it.
Yeah. Like we were playing Kakarot, and I was like, "This is exactly what they were trying to do."
That was the feel they were going for, but it's like when you walk in, you just like you see Tien just hanging out, like, so did you kill everyone here?
Yeah, basically.
and you look around, and you're like, I guess I'll take this
just
Dragon
empty.
Ball.
Like you're not a main character. Like there's no NPCs in that game. There's no such thing.
No expense was spared on NPCs.
No kidding, man. Got to play destructible environments though, so that's nice.
Oh yeah, and that was another reason I liked that. For if you didn't just find the Dragon Balls in cities, you found them just through battles, and I was like, that's all I needed. Right. I was absolutely into that, and they carried that over to BT3, but that's for later.
Right. But no, Dragon Ball Budokai Tenkaichi 2 definitely...
That was the one that cemented my fandom. Because, like I said, I played Infinite World, but then when I got a hold of Budokai Tenkaichi 2, I really played the hell out of that game.
It's like playing Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite before you played Marvel vs. Capcom 3.
Yeah.
You understand the immediate downgrade that you experienced. That was like supposed to be the newest best thing, but when you go back, it's like, no, this.
And you're like, this is exactly what I wanted. Like,
yeah.
I like the little touches, like Goku can charge a spirit bomb and make it more powerful.
Yep. It can like float in the air and stay there.
Yes, and you can see it from afar.
Very cool.
All the characters play differently and are unique in their own way, be that to the betterment or their worseness.
Yeah.
So some characters have a unique, and this is faithful to the series, which I'll give them credit for. Some characters have a move that just deactivates their opponent's lock on, because it's supposed to be like, they're hiding their energy,
right?
But that's all it does. And you've expelled time and energy into doing it. And it's like, well, if you're not going to use that if you're directly fighting with someone, and that only works if you're like doing something else. It's like, I don't know. It's not bad, but I feel like that was a wasted.
No, I agree.
Wasted thing, but
I agree.
I do like the little touches, like Imperfect Cell can absorb energy from anyone except the androids.
Right.
He just will gain no health back from doing certain moves to them like that. But Ultimate Battle Z was rather fun. This was the one that was like the core and tower type things that had like the totems and everything. And I remember as a kid, those were like my proving grounds to me, where I was like, if I can get up there, if I can beat those, I'm good at this game and stuff. And so I remember when I got BT3, I kind of passed this game down to my younger sister and my two nephews, and they loved it. They were absolutely in love with this game. Then came the fan favorite.
Right. BT3.
Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi 3. As Drew said.
Yes.
/ Sparking Meteor.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
So this came out for the PS2 and Wii. And here's the thing, I played the shit out of this game, but I never particularly owned it. I played this game religiously at a cousin's house.
Okay. Gotcha.
He had it for the Wii. He actually, like, back in like 2008, 2009, he had modded his Wii.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and or like his dad did. And they had like the entire Wii library on like a flash drive up to that point.
Yeah, I remember hearing that people did that.
Yeah, for sure. And we played it that way, and I was blown away. I you know, like, I had Tenkaichi 2, but I looked at, you know, some of the characters that were in 3 that were not in 2, and I was like, oh well, this must be an upgrade in every conceivable way.
The definitive version, yeah.
Right. Now as an adult, my opinion is a little more nuanced than that.
Tell me your opinion, because I'm curious.
You know, hey man, I'm just gonna say it. Budokai Tenkaichi 3 absolutely butchered the story mode. No, and I'm sorry guys. I love BT3, and since then it has become the game that I've default to. It's the game that I played the most, but when you compare the animated cutscenes from Budokai Tenkaichi 2 with 3, it's absolutely no contest.
Yeah,
I mean, most of the cutscenes in BT3 are the characters standing, or when they're damaged, they hold their arm and they say their lines, and then they fall over. Like, there's really no real animation to those cutscenes, you know.
And it's painful too, because while I do like the more streamlined approach that they took with the battles,
right?
I do think it takes away. It takes away from the experience of the story, and like, I didn't think I'd miss that as much as I did, and I was like, you know what? It kind of felt too easy.
I missed it very much.
Yeah.
Because again, there are just certain moments in Dragon Ball that you expect to be able to experience in the context of the video game adaptation, and you know, even if you didn't get to see or get to actually like play a lot of like the moments that I'm referring to in Budokai Tenkaichi 2, you still got to see them. They still played out correctly.
Oh yeah.
But in Tenkaichi 3, like, even in the best case scenario where you follow the battle the way that it's supposed to be played, a lot of the times, like, little details get skipped and glossed over, and I found myself missing the Budokai Tenkaichi story mode. I really did.
I will say that. The first game or the second game?
Second game.
Oh, okay, because you just said Budokai Tenkaichi. I was like,
what? Well, even that one was.
Yeah, even that one had its charms too.
Exactly, that one was a little bit better.
Yeah, it kind of felt like this game, and this. I don't know if this was the case of yearly installments just kind of wearing them out. Probably. But it felt like this was more like, what can we add more? Like that was what it was to me, where it's like, because just for example, so this game for us came out November 13th, 2007. Mm-hmm. December 3rd for the Wii, 2007. So now, 162 playable characters.
Well, it's more like 100 playable characters, and then like all their alternate forms.
It's just a head count, but yeah. I do like this is also kind of an inflated number. It's like 23 battle stages. They've got day, night, and cycles.
They sure do.
It's really more well. There are still a lot of stages. But it's more like 12.
And they are cool stages.
Oh yeah, I love Jelly Bean Hell.
I love Jelly Bean Hell. My favorite was the Bardock stage where you're floating above Planet Vegeta.
Yeah,
absolutely, man. That
one always has like a cool atmosphere about it.
Yes.
This was definitely the highest selling Budokai Tenkaichi game. Mm-hmm. Currently, sold nearly 4 million copies.
Yeah.
I think that's the best we've got so far in these games that we've listed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many copies did Fighters sell? Because Fighters was like the hottest thing on the planet. Fighters,
I think, is still going, and it just hasn't stopped. But I I did not put fighters on the list because we're more or less talking about the Budokai Tenkaichi gameplay.
Right.
But
I was just trying to think of one that would be comparable.
That probably has sold more.
Yeah.
Yeah, the main story, like I said, streamlined, a lot less tedious. Ultimate Battle is kind of repetitive.
Yeah, but it's largely unchanged from what it was before.
It's unchanged, but it feels like there's just like so much more to where you're like, I already did this in the older game. Like,
yeah. Well, like if you got through like the 100-man challenge, you are a monster, and be probably sleep deprived because like that shit is impossible.
I spent many a sleepless night playing this game.
I could never defeat that 100 ranking mode, whatever it was called. Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't do it.
Impossible.
There are plenty of nods to the classic, iconic, and downright strange Dragon Ball moments.
Love it.
Such as Pilaf Machine firing a missile from his gooch.
Love it, dude.
Battle damage will give you character iconic skins, such as the battle damage Goku Frieza skin.
Yep.
There's the I noticed this too with Vegeta. Whenever he's injured, he always holds his arm.
He holds his left arm. He has to.
Always, and it's like those little touches. They make the games just so much more. I hate this word, but it's like immersive. It just brings you back to the show. And
I do want to point out that even though I did like kind of harshly criticize BT3 for its story mode, the entirety of Dragon Ball Z is still represented in that story mode. The entirety of GT is. Most of the original Dragon Ball is. All of the specials, because, all the movies, everything is there.
Yep. Everything that was there at the time.
Yeah. That's really impressive. I know the previous games did that, but like they didn't include every character.
Now you have your critiques on the story. I'm curious, do you have any critiques on the gameplay per se?
Well, the gameplay unfortunately falls into the same problems that I have with the previous two. I don't necessarily feel like characters are unique enough against each other, especially when you are encouraged to spam key blasts. You know, like a lot of like the really cool like kicks and punches that are very well animated and like perfectly reflect like the characters' moves in the show. You just don't use them. You know, you just don't really use them a whole lot.
So I was curious about that, right?
Yeah.
And I went into the training mode, the ultimate training, and I was like, I remember this game having a lot more detail going into it. Yeah. And I kept getting caught during the story mode with like grabs and stuff, and I was like, why can't I do that? What am I doing wrong? So I went to the ultimate training, and I learned. And I think it's probably my favorite training that's been in these Budokai games.
Okay.
Budokai Tenkaichi, because they really do like wait until you nail it.
Yeah.
Before they're just like, all right, now we move on to the next one. And
that's good.
Obviously, when you're wanting to play as someone that's obviously weaker, but like as a kid, because this was one of my favorite games, I learned how to power up characters that I wanted.
Yeah.
Like Spopovich, like people that I just would like add health, and it's just like, I don't know. It was something about that I inherently love.
Legit. Yeah, and that's what you're supposed to do. That's what the game is designed to do.
But I will say, if you're just picking it up for a casual play, it is going to be pretty difficult.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's nothing it's not like Smash where anyone can pick up a controller and be Kirby and just be like, all right, I got to kill. It's like, no.
It's definitely not like that. But, there is enough. Like, there's enough diversity in the roster, I suppose. But, like, you understand playing it. There's a meta to the game. And that meta requires you to do, like, 3 things. And that's more or less the game.
Yeah, it's not complicated.
No, but but it is fun.
Oh yeah,
it is.
You have a fun time playing it, and it's just like, I don't know, like especially with the I especially had fun with the What If sagas. I thought they were pretty
the What If sagas are definitely the best in BT. Absolutely.
Fucking Devil Man.
Devil Man.
Dude. Ooh. I'll cut in a clip of that here. But that shit.
If he's not in Sparking Zero, I'm riding.
You know what? I might agree with you. I mean, like, this man beat Frieza and King Cold. Like,
yeah.
I accept that more than I accept Trunks coming back.
He's
like,
yeah, dude. That
like the world needed a hero.
Yeah.
And he was there. I like that on the.
I love the Cellin. The what if Cell absorbed Krillin accidentally and he became way weaker. That was great. Love that shit.
What was the
There was one where
No, that wasn't BT3.
Wasn't BT3?
No, I think that was different. Oh gosh, what was it? That might have been the first Tenkaichi, because I remember the graphics of that were way downgraded. But
I could be mistaken. Yeah.
I can't remember, but I like that Chi-Chi Judge is your favorite character.
Yeah.
She has a voice line for every single character in the game.
She does.
And most of them about Super Saiyans are about people being delinquents.
That's right.
You know what? I'll give a pass because that's a Japanese trope. Like, if you have blonde hair, you're a delinquent. It's like, okay, that's fair enough.
Totally.
But yeah, it's very.
That game is just jam packed with content, man.
Yeah, and it's like I think they really just put a lot of effort into fuck the story. We're just gonna make a game that we think is fucking fun.
Like we're going to include everything that we couldn't in the past two games. We're basically gonna like expand the second game and just stuff with every character we can think of. Everyone who had a panel cameo,
So
I
put Dragon Ball Xenoverse down because it is very similar to the Budokai Tenkaichi games in style of gameplay.
Yeah, it is.
Developed by Dimps, published by Bandai Namco, PS3, PS4, Xbox 360, Xbox One. Released for us February 24th, 2015.
Right.
This sold, and as of right now, has sold 10 million copies.
Wow.
Reviews were mixed to average, and I can kind of see why. We were talking about this a little bit earlier, but it just felt like there needed to be... Because... I'll just read through this. It says, full 3D battle similar to the Budokai Tenkaichi games, an original plot, which is just kind of like the same plot we've had, but with minor disturbances.
Right.
But it's forgivable due to it being a relatively new game at the time, and I found it quite fun. Very small and limiting hub world. There was no flying.
Yeah.
It was just basically a donut.
It was.
Extra missions you can do to get moves. I found it a fun time. Create your own fun and unique character.
Yep.
It certainly was a good time killer. I don't think it would have had as much longevity as it did had it not gotten the sequel, but which they got 1 year later and never looked back.
Mm-hmm.
But it just felt like you only did two things in this game, which were time quests,
fighting,
and the story mission.
Yeah.
And it's like that was really all you played the game for. And it's like, I like those aspects, but there just needed to be so much more.
Oh, I think that a lot of the people that enjoyed Dragon Ball Xenoverse enjoyed it because they could create their own character and because it was so in depth with all the customization options and all the techniques you can learn, and you have to go to specific characters to learn certain moves. And I was speaking about this earlier off the podcast. I thought that Dragon Ball Xenoverse had an excellent concept.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Yeah, because the idea of going to alternate universes and stuff obviously is off the table, but going into different timelines. In the show, there are only a handful of different alternate timelines, and they go to great lengths to try to eliminate them or try to minimize how many alternate timelines exist out there. But in Xenoverse, it's no, there are so many more that are undocumented, that are just not on anybody's radar, we need the Supreme Kai of Time to come in and handle all of this personally, and I really love that concept because it opens up the possibilities. I truly think that one of the big mistakes of Dragon Ball Super was stating that only less than 30 planets in the entire universe that have life. Ridiculous. But 2, they limited the multiverse to only 12 other universes.
And that and then they said that 6 of them are parallel to each other.
Right.
So it's basically you said 6 universes.
Right, they're twin. They're twin. Most of these universes are twin universes. One is just gone because I don't even like it. But yeah, I always thought that like limiting it that way probably felt like a good idea at the time because you look at Marvel movies and it's like there are like a dozen different universes and we can have a new version of any character at any given point. But like with Dragon Ball,
you don't want to make it seem too expansive, but at the same time, I think like
you need to.
Yeah, like why not?
You need to expand because like when Goku outgrew the planet, he went out into space, and when he outgrew space, he started going to alternate universes, and now that he's on the level of like the strongest people of the universes he knows, there logically, or maybe not logically, but like I think that it would be a good idea to introduce like more planes of existence, maybe not necessarily higher, but like just like beings from like universes that we're not familiar with,
or just like threats that can work within the universe and stuff like that. Like this is immediately off the top of my head, I think of Mira and Toa, like time. Like okay, they're gonna threaten time. It's like, oh, who's gonna stop them? The strongest being in the universe.
Absolutely.
Like
absolutely. Their plan was sound.
And so yeah, the first Dragon Ball Xenoverse game, it's like you're just pining for something more.
A little bit, yeah.
And I remember, I think this was also a historic first for me. I don't know if it was for you. I'm kind of curious. I want to ask you a question. What was the first game you ever purchased DLC for, if ever?
The first game that I ever purchased DLC for was probably like Marvel vs. Capcom when they had a bunch of downloadable characters. But then like Borderlands had a bunch of DLCs that I was into for at least a little while.
Well, for me, spending money extra on a game was not a concept I really did much.
Absolutely not, no.
And I didn't have the means to really buy my own cars and stuff, so I had to get my mom's credit card and ask her like, hey, for my allowance, can I get this DLC? And she's like, fine. And so when I got the Dragon Ball Xenoverse 1 DLC, I was like, my first DLC, and it was kind of boring.
Yeah.
It was like, but it being my first, I loved it.
More of the same. Yeah.
It was the Super Saiyan God transformation, Beerus and Whis and stuff, and I was like, it's cool, but I expected it. And then Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2. They've stopped calculating how much this has sold, but we're standing at 10 million.
Nice.
This game has 126 characters, not including transformations.
Love it.
So I think this current one takes the cake.
Probably. On top of characters that you can create from the ground up yourself.
Yes. So. Well, I'm just talking about like general.
No, I know. Yeah, but having all of that on top of.
Which I think you can make like 8 or 10.
You can make quite a few, yeah.
Which was another thing I didn't like about the first Xenoverse. I was like, I want to create another race character and like kind of go through the story with them. And then with the second game, I could do that, and I was like, you just expanded this replayability to like three different games at least. Cool. And I even booted it up recently, and I was like,
a lot going on here.
I was looking at like I created so many characters and like there's specific levels and stuff. And first of all, Hub World, loved it. I love the different regions. Bit small, bit compact, but also...
Well, it's better than the first one, for sure.
Definitely better than the first one. You can fly this time around it. You can get a flying license. This came out October 25th, 2016. Currently, it is for the PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, Windows, Stadia, PS5, and Xbox Series X and S.
Oh, it's still on Stadia, huh?
Apparently. Among a slew of other releases, but we're just going with the October 25th.
Sure.
Reviews are generally good, and big hub world, more time quests, more story, and just generally more all around. It's still getting support to this day, and it's been about 8 years.
That's insane.
Online raid battles, including they even did one for like the superhero for.
They sure did.
Full Max Cell, and they even included like Orange Piccolo and everything, and they have the expert missions, keeping things challenging without feeling like they're too hopeless. your hero from the first game makes an appearance. If you played it on a similar console. Yeah, and if you choose to. Vehicles, tons of characters through DLC. It's a stacked roster, and I'd like to say that, like, if you take out the original character aspect of this would kind of be like, what is your opinion on the gameplay of Xenoverse 2? Because I'm often torn on it. Because it's multiple, like, you can fight multiple enemies at multiple times. And you do have the key waves. But I feel like fighting is better. I don't know if that's
the fighting is better because the camera is so much significantly better. And unlike PlayStation 2 era, or even like the PlayStation 3 era, you're not really dealing with much like split screen action. It's just you able to use up the entire real estate of the screen to 100% of the time. Not only that, but like you can customize what moves you want your character to have.
Yes.
And that's something that the other games also did, but not quite to the extent of this universe. Like if you wanted to like have an original character know the special beam cannon and Kaioken and whatever else, you can do that.
They had even as far as your character, you could do presets for outfits. You could do customizable outfits.
Absolutely.
Dress them like other characters. You could get a halo on them and everything. Just super fun stuff. And
you can carry weapons like swords and junk.
Yeah, the Tapion sword is one of them. The Bancho fan. Just fun little callbacks all over the place. And you're just like, man, the customizing just really sticks out to you because it's like, for me at least, I was always like, man, this is just like, this is so much more than I expected from, because like, I don't know about you, but like we were talking about like updates to games and releases, and like you think of like BT3 and you would think that game is like leagues above BT2.
Right.
It's moderately above, it's more of a BT.5.
It's more stuff.
It's like how Infinite World is Budokai 3.5.
Yeah.
This game was basically like Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 and 3 in one game. Like, there was just so much happening in the game, and
there was nothing left to say after 2.
And
they
like
really did it all.
They expanded. There was 100 missions. I think they expanded the missions. I think now there's another, I want to say maybe 70 missions.
They've covered all the movies, all the specials. They've covered.
They've definitely covered
Dragon
all
Ball.
Dragon Ball.
Covered GT.
I know that they have Zamasu and everybody.
Yep. I know that they got up to like the Universe 16s, like Cauliflower Kale. They got up to that point.
Yep.
So Jiren.
I know they got Jiren, yeah.
So yeah, like literally the entire franchise is encapsulated in that game at this point.
And it's just amazing that it just keeps getting support. But I think a big part of that is just like how they expanded the world was so. The best way I can put it is it was so satisfying.
Okay.
Because you didn't just feel like, oh, this is my sandbox. You felt like you kind of earned it slowly over time of like, okay, get your flying license, do your moves do your time quests to the point where you get all the moves you want and you work hard for those moves. And you work hard at customization and everything. And for me, that was just a big selling point of it. And plus you could do missions with your friends, which I did mostly. And I was like, that sold me instantly too.
Multiplayer makes a difference. Yeah.
Not only that, but multiplayer for missions makes a difference. Because I never really, I'm not really I don't like to battle my friends.
Yeah.
I like to co-op with them. And when we can co-op in Dragon Ball Z, I'm like,
there are very few games in the Dragon Ball video game franchise that allow you to do that. There are actually very few video games that let you do that, like, period now.
Yeah. Unless you're especially Dragon Ball Z style fighting too. It's like you have like Overwatch teams and stuff like that, but like they're not the same.
It's not the same. It's completely different objective. And I think that the only game prior to the Xenoverse having co-op missions was probably dead-ass Dragon Ball Z Sagas.
Probably. Yeah.
Which was a game that we skipped over for good reason. That game is a hot pile of garbage. That game is... That game is like the worst version of like...
I tried to play it, and I
Like, me and my brother, we loved, like, kind of like, beat 'em up games, kind of like that. We were all about them. Like, it was Marvel Ultimate Alliance, X-Men Legends, Justice League Heroes, Shrek Party Slam or something like that. There was a Batman game in there too. But like at the very bottom of that list was Dragon Ball Z Sagas. Because we both were so frustrated playing that game. It was the camera. You were basically tethered to each other. You could not move apart. Flying in that game was an absolute joke.
Yes, yeah. I tried many times and it was so
unbelievable. It's essentially like this. Like when... Okay, and we are again talking about Dragon Ball Z Sagas for just 5 seconds.
There's not much to say.
Exactly, but it has a very annoying mechanic where, like, if your character is standing on, okay, so let's say like there's a ground and then there's a platform. If your character is standing on that platform and then you go to fly, the character cannot fly any higher than the platform that they were previously standing on. So you're talking about like inches off of the ground.
Oh gosh.
And that was flying.
I remember.
So like if you wanted to get up high into the sky, you had to climb a rock or a mountain or something, then jump, fly, and that's how you got elevation in that game.
Cut from Dragon Ball Saga to Kakarot.
To Kakarot.
Where you have the entirety of God's green earth to explore.
Literally.
And just jump and shit.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, we are talking about like generations of hardware difference, but like
But like the idea is that just like, and the limitations caused by just certain hardware, and it's like, man, it's.
But then again, no, but there were good beat 'em up games. Like there was like Batman Rise of Sin 2 was one that I mentioned. The X-Men Legends games were like excellent games, and they had RPG elements that weren't annoying. Just saying. So it's not like the hardware was incapable of doing it. It's just like they just didn't.
Yeah,
they just didn't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what their plan was, but they certainly did something.
And they wanted something quick to release, probably that Christmas or summer or whatever it was. And
the last game retrospectively now is Kakarot, developed by CyberConnect 2.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Unreal Engine 4 is the engine that runs it. PS4, Xbox One, Windows, Nintendo Switch, Stadia, PS5, Xbox S and X. I believe it was just
Keep bringing up Stadia. Like, why?
Well, I'm just listing the platforms.
Okay.
But that's what it said on the wiki.
All right.
But PS4 and Xbox One were initially what it was released on. It took a bit before it came to Nintendo Switch with added DLC. Initially, it was released, I believe, in January 16th, 2020. As of now, it has sold 8 million copies.
That's pretty big.
Just under Xenoverse's 10 million.
Right.
Both Xenoverse's 10 million, but this might be my favorite DBZ game in terms of story.
Right.
The gameplay is similar to Budokai Tenkaichi, but it does the Dragon Ball Xenoverse thing where you can fight multiple enemies at once. The progression in the game is really tight, and even when you level up, you don't feel like you're too over-leveled unless you overfight.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to be over-leveled, you can absolutely fight to be over-leveled, but you're never outgunned and outmatched for the job.
Okay.
So the progression in that game is really tight, and very helpful in keeping challenge as well as preparing you for new challenges. Lots of actually fun mini-games, such as Try Think Car with Goku and Piccolo. Plenty of side quests to do in the open world, involving Launch as well as many, many others, and Yamcha and everybody. The map is, of course, canonical still.
And huge.
Very huge. We're including King Kai's planet, Planet Namek, later the Supreme Kai of Time, or not Time, Supreme Kai of wherever their planet is.
Yeah, Otherworld.
Yeah, Otherworld. The cutscenes are better than I think that they've been in a long time. And
I
that's
like cutscenes.
just because
They're not perfect.
they're not perfect, but they're I think they're just a little bit more polished than Xenoverse 2.
Yeah.
And Xenoverse 2 had some really good cutscenes, don't get me wrong, but like just the overall quality, as well as like just the music that plays, the ambience. And I think we were listening to it. I can't remember. Did we decide whether it was Kai?
It was Japanese. It was a Japanese score.
Yeah, and they'll just bring in that music, and man, it feels like Dragon Ball.
For sure, man.
And you're like, to where Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 is more aimed at like
the Dragon Ball fan, the fandom.
Yeah, it's more of like a fandom game where you're just like, this is like the fandom. This is what we enjoy about Dragon Ball Xenoverse. And here's
on our terms.
Here's what we want to do on our terms.
Yeah.
This is more sticking to the straight and narrow of the actual story and being like, okay, what are the canonical things that have happened in this universe? Let's explore them to the nines.
Right.
And I think it does a good job at that.
It's a beautiful looking game, you know.
And we were playing it on the Switch.
Yes.
Granted, on handheld it's a bit worse, but
still looked fantastic.
It's still a pretty good game.
Yeah.
And again, PS4, I definitely recommend playing it on PS4 or Xbox One if you have it.
Right.
I think I got it on a sale, which was like $10.
Nice.
Because it's been around for quite a while, and like Xenoverse 2, you're mostly paying for DLC at that point.
Yeah.
But with that, we now come to Sparking Zero.
Right.
Do you have... So I did the math.
Huh?
They are going to beat out the... So it's not going to beat Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2.
No, not their roster.
Not their roster, I don't
Right.
think.
That's a really tall order, yeah.
Especially with all the added DLC that game keeps getting.
Right. But is it at least going to be on par with BT3?
So BT3 had, I believe, 162
Right.
playable characters. This game will have 160.
Okay.
So my thinking is they're not going to include a lot of the one-off characters that we see, such as
no Arale, no Devilman.
Yeah, none of the goofy characters that we come to know and love.
Yeah.
It's going to be strictly Dragon Ball Z, GT, and
Super.
Super. I'm thinking Dragon Ball. There'll be Kid Goku and maybe King Piccolo, I'm assuming.
Right.
I'm not expecting much beyond that.
Nor am I, honestly. Like,
which is a shame.
It really is a shame, but like at the same time, if there really is no room for the roster, I suppose, I would probably take Jiren over a Pool. You know, that might be me. But I'm not convinced that they're
still in the game.
Well, good. I'm glad.
Frieza Force is still in the game.
Okay.
Yeah, they showed that one iconic bearded guy.
Nice.
So he's still in. There's still a lot of like the wandering like goon characters and everybody.
Yeah.
But I just don't think that they, especially when I look at gameplay, I don't think the gameplay mixes well with the Dragon Ball style.
You haven't even played it yet, huh?
No, I haven't played it, but they go a lot more into the destruction aspect of the area that you're going into and stuff like that. And I don't know, it would feel weird to see a Raleigh in this like realistic explosion and everything, where it's like they really blow it up to the nines. And in I'm just gonna call it BT4. In BT4, it's not the crumbling building like it was in the old games.
We can't call it BT4 because there is a
quote-unquote
BT4.
There is a BT4 which I downloaded, and
no, you mean you bought the disc?
I bought the disc canonically from my Windows computer.
It is
somehow.
No. Here's the thing. It is a ROM hack, but you bought it off someone physically who burned it onto the disc.
Yes.
And then you took it home.
Yeah, my drug dealer Stan. He's got the games.
Yes.
He's got. Like sometimes he'll hook me up with Pac-Man. The legend continues, and I am ready to.
He just better stop looking at me crossways. I do not appreciate the way he looks at me.
His one eye just keeps going up, and I don't know what happens with him. But anyway, he's got only 3 fingers on one hand.
Yeah, he better wash himself or lose the other 2.
Got it. I got that reference. I understood that reference.
No, we're not going to explain it.
But I don't know, man. Like, I'm wondering how they're going to do the story in this game, because they've already kind of shown that they're introducing characters via like sagas.
Yeah.
And they've already kind of shown like snippets of cutscenes of the way that they're introducing characters, such as the androids and Cell and all that. And I'm like, okay, so we're going to get the basic.
Yeah, like look up the trailers. It looks like we're going to have some nice like cinematics, you know.
Which I'm happy for, but I'm also a bit worried because I don't think it's just the Dragon Ball Z or Dragon Ball characters that are missing.
Yeah.
Where are the movie characters?
I haven't seen anything.
I haven't seen
from them yet.
Yeah. I haven't seen. The only one I've seen is the Super movies.
Yeah.
And they've already announced that they're doing the superhero.
They are.
Two characters, I forget their names, but
the Gammas.
Whatever.
Gamma 1 and Gamma 2. That's their name.
That was it.
Yeah.
But they announced that, and I'm wondering, are they gonna do a DLC?
They probably are.
DLC,
yeah, almost without a question. Yeah.
Which I guess I can see. It's a quick way to make money. I'd be a little peeved if they charge so much for like, this is the cooler pack and this is the Janemba pack. It's like, just release all the movie characters at once.
That's what it's probably going to be. Like, just going off of like what Xenoverse did. Like Xenoverse like spoon fed all of like each special and each movie as DLC. Even when like the characters are in the game already, you know, whatever.
I do hope
I'm not convinced that they're not going to go that route, man, because that's how, you know, the gaming. It's just how they make money, man.
I don't know.
It's not about one-time purchases anymore.
I do think that the new cityscapes that they've introduced are drop dead gorgeous.
Yeah, they're really good.
They are. I think the one of West City, I can't help but look around.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, what the fuck? How did they put this together? Like, and it just blows my mind every time, because I'm just like, there's just so much here. And I love little details and stuff. And they got like a hot dog cart and some shit. And I'm like, never fucking see that. Whatever, fine.
It's gonna get blown the fuck up as soon as the gets here. Yeah.
But I'm just like, I love little shitty details like that.
Yeah.
And
that's cool.
Oh yeah, one other thing I wanted to say just about the Xenoverse series. I think Xenoverse 2 did this. I don't remember if Xenoverse 1 did. They had the gates mid-stage where you would go to a different location.
Right.
And I thought that was always just pretty unique, because it kind of freshened things up in a little bit. But like eventually you kind of get used to all the maps.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. I just wanted to mention that concept is always kind of like interesting to me, because
it definitely streamlined the game a bit. Yeah.
For Smash Bros, something I actually wanted to show you later, was you can stage morph, which is like halfway, like during your battle you can time it so like after a specific amount of time, stage will morph into a different stage, and you're just like,
oh wow,
now we're here. It's like, okay, and you can choose the music for both of them, and it's like everything, and it's like, just feels really, really clean and really good.
Wow, no, I didn't know that. I for full disclosure, for anyone still listening, I completely skipped over the Switch generation. Didn't play Smash, no Odyssey, no Zelda, nothing. Nothing from Nintendo for these past few years. I was on PS4 and I was on PC. So
he's been avoiding Miyamoto at all costs.
I mean, not intentionally, man. It's just,
He just can't get over Mario Dad.
My friends just didn't buy Switches.
Fair enough.
What it really came down to.
And I mean, I would hope that perchance we can encourage you to play with us sometime.
Yeah.
And play some Mario Party or some shit.
Yeah, man. I'm not. Like, I'm not unfamiliar with the Switch by any means. It's just I never personally owned it. So I really don't have any like attachment to any of the games. But like I would buy the console just for Odyssey if I thought, like, you know.
Oh yeah, something I wanted to say was that despite Dragon Ball Z Budokai coming out during like a boom in the video gaming period, 3.5 million copies sold. That is a big number, and I just want to list some of the...
You also have to keep in mind that, like, early on is the PlayStation 2's life cycle. Like, they were going through all sorts of chip shortages. Not everybody could get a PlayStation 2 right off of the
No one could get a PlayStation 2 memory card either.
No one could get PlayStation 2 memory cards. Yeah, an extra controller, forget about it.
Nope. Yeah. I just want to list some of the other games that came out in 2002.
Okay.
Grand Theft Auto Vice City.
Oh, wow.
Super Mario Sunshine.
Love it.
Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind.
Okay.
Metroid Fusion, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 4.
Pro Skater 4, okay. I think that's the one with Shrek?
I can't remember, I think so.
Maybe that was Underground.
James Bond 007 Nightfire.
Love Nightfire.
Resident Evil 0.
Never played it.
Spider-Man 2002.
Yes!
It's
Tom Maguire one.
Kingdom Hearts.
I tried, I was never big into it.
But I'm just saying, like, these are Godzilla Destroy All Monsters Melee.
Loved that, yeah.
I remember that game too, actually.
I love that game.
Yeah, just showing you that, like, this series of games, the Budokai games, and not just because of their gameplay or whatever, the Dragon Ball Z name alone attracts people.
Yeah.
And it was just such a selling point. And it is such a selling point even today, where you're just like, it's got Dragon Ball Z on it. It's almost guaranteed like a million buys.
It is arguably the most successful anime of all time. I think that maybe maybe Sailor Moon would probably have something to say about that. But like,
I don't know about video game. For video game sales,
video games. Well, yeah, it's no contest.
Yeah, One Piece is finally starting to get pretty decent in their video games.
Naruto has tons of video games.
Naruto's got a lot of them.
Yeah.
But I don't know if the sales even touch that of like the Xenoverse games. And
I mean, just look at how Jump Force did compared to like just a regular Dragon Ball Z game.
I never liked Jump Force.
Great concept. Revisit the concept. Just give it a cartoony 2D art style.
Why did they choose that art style?
Yeah.
It turned me off immediately. I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
And I'm looking at like Deku and Bakugo next to fucking Goku and Vegeta. I'm like, this could have been great.
Yeah, they all kind of like look the same,
and they look gross.
Yeah.
They're like none of them are like their characters. It's like you know what?
They're just off model enough for you to notice.
Yeah, and it's like that. I don't think this is the game I'm meaning to reference, but it's like Goku reminds me of the Goku from Battle of Z.
Okay.
Remember that video game?
Vaguely. That was
orange colored.
That was like the 360 era.
Yeah, that was 360 era, and I don't even know that many people who played that game. I looked up footage of that game for this game. I was like, there's nothing that needs to be talked about here. This game is so forgettable.
Yeah.
It was such a weird game, and I remember because I downloaded like the beta when I was way younger because it was free, and I was like. Yeah. I forgot about it. I was like, I clean forgot about it. And so,
I forgot the game we were talking about.
Well, we're going all over the place as we often do on Moon Friends.
Yeah.
But it's just... My basic point was that Dragon Ball Z has selling power. And when you look up specifically the Budokai Tenkaichi series, obviously that had a lot of selling power. Right now, I mean, especially in the last few years, you're looking at tens of millions of dollars and like just seemingly this franchise. I mean, I don't even need to look at Fighter Z to know that it made fucking 10 million probably. Like that game sold a fuck ton.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, like I see that game frequently on sale and everything.
Yeah. It's in all of like the major gaming competitions.
Oh yeah, Evo.
Like, it took over from Marvel vs. Capcom for a good long time. Well, because they ruined that franchise with Infinite. But you know, less said about that, the better.
But I thought I would bring forth this discussion of Dragon Ball Z gaming to the people to say, like, how our journey has gone and where we're at now.
Right. And it is worthy to note that, like, how long are we into this?
We're reaching our time. We're reaching about an hour 30.
Okay. Well, I guess some closing thoughts. Even though, like, We've gone about an hour and a half talking about the Dragon Ball games, but we honestly haven't even scratched the surface.
Oh yeah.
Like we talked about maybe a dozen. There are dozens Dragon Ball Z games, plenty of them. You know, there were some really good ones we didn't even get a chance to mention. Like, I really liked the Super Butoden games for the SNES.
Mm-hmm.
Those were like crazy early, but they were doing all the same things that Budokai and Tenkaichi did. They had, characters with unique animations. They had split screen battles. They were doing a lot. And another game that it was released on the PS2. I think I got you to play it for like 5 minutes. It was Super Dragon Ball Z. And
I think I played it.
Okay, well, that was more like a like a Tekken-esque Dragon Ball Z game.
Okay.
It was exclusively released in arcades in Japan and never came over to America except through the port on the PS2. Very underrated game. Very fun. It doesn't have the huge roster. I think it maybe only has like 20-something characters. But it plays much more like Power Stone or Tekken.
Okay.
And it's a lot of fun. The cell-shaded graphics are beautiful. In my opinion.
I'll have to look it up.
Yeah.
Try to see if I can get it working again. Because I tried and it just
would
not let me. The disc. Right. Pesky discs. But I guess the only thing to really close out on is do you think that they will be adding a DLC for your specific universe? Is E-Poach coming?
Epic.
Epic?
His name is Epic.
I always just call him E-Poach.
I always used to pronounce it as Epoch because
that would have been my sense.
Yeah, there were like these really weird like Sonic cartoons from like Newgrounds way back in the day, and like people would always refer to them as Epoch.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, like people I knew, like being like 8. Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, no. I don't think that the particular timeline from my manga will be represented this time.
It's a damn shame.
Yeah, not this time, maybe. But
we're still. We'll see. We'll ask the next time you get that phone call. We'll see.
Yeah, like I'm not gonna lie. Like, yeah, Toei kind of ghosted me, and that was like, that's
Bastards.
I won't get into my deeper feelings about that, but they are aware of my presence. They they called me back, so that was nice.
I mean, hey, and they did call you sweetie on the phone, so that was nice too.
Yeah, I didn't get it at the time though, because I don't speak Japanese.
Yeah, but I heard it very clearly, and I was like, I translated it right then on my phone. I was like, I gotta know, and it was right there for you. And
yeah, honestly, I should have been doing the same thing, but it is what it is.
It is what. Well then.
And that's the show. Thank you so much for listening all the way through. If you're still here, once more, I am Chumpchange. You can find me at deviantart.com under the name Chumpchangedraws. I am also on Instagram under Chumpchangedraws Comics. By all means, please give me a follow. Give me read some of my manga. Check out some of my art. I'd very much appreciate it. And thank you very much to the Moon Friends for having me on this episode. I very much appreciate the opportunity, and I very much enjoyed talking to you guys. Alright, well, thank you very much. I'll see you around.
Bye!